But the other side of that is a real opportunity to make sure that the best in regional commissioning can be translated across the whole of the system in a rapid way. We no longer have we got to go through 151 PCTs, 10 SHAs, but the commissioning board itself directly can shift resources around the system, support and improve patient care in a way perhaps few people have understood, and is very important as we go forward. But not only regional and national commissioning, it has the responsibility of commissioning at a very local level, primary care. Again, a huge lever, £6–7 billion worth of public money to make things happen locally, a real opportunity to make services fit together. It also has the responsibility of setting out the quality standards for the service as a whole. NICE have been given the job of setting out those standards. What the commissioning board then does is turn those standards into commissioning guidance for the consortia. So for the first time in the NHS, we're going to set out what really good looks like at a national level. There's a whole series of ideas about what really good looks like. What NICE are doing are using all the evidence and all the best practice to identify what that looks like at a national level. The commissioning board then is responsible for making that a reality through commissioning guidance and through the GP consortia. A really important process. So for the first time, we can get consistency of outcomes across the system as a whole. Many people have talked about the reform as if it is fragmentation of everything. Well, there is some undoubted devolution in the system. Then there is breaking up into smaller organisations to take the service forward. But the importance of the National Commissioning Board, in the sense that it puts the N in the NHS. It is the thing that sets the national standards that we can drive change throughout the service. And an opportunity as an organisation dedicated to shifting best practice around the system. It also has the responsibility, the commissioning board, of delivering the commissioning outcomes framework, which is essentially the way we translate the national outcomes into local outcomes for GP commissioners. And as part of that, it delivers the quality premium. It allocates resources to the consortia, extra resources to the consortia, on the basis of whether they're delivering improved outcomes or not. And anyone who knows about general practice, the way it operates, the use of financial incentives can be enormously powerful in moving services forward. So if you look at the totality of that, that is a significant player. It has to have outcomes and clinicians at the heart of it. And I think it will play a really important role going forward. But obviously the issue really is how that commissioning system is going to impact on healthcare provision, because it's all very interesting at one level, but if it doesn't actually impact on the quality, the improvement of services for patients, what's the point of all the trouble, the investment and the changes that we're trying to make? And there are just two or three things I'd like to say about healthcare providers at the moment, and the way they're taking things forward. This is not we're not going through all of this change just to reinvent the old system. What on earth would be the point of doing it? In fact, we couldn't reinvent the old system. The old system costs nearly twice as much to run as the money that we've got to run the new one. So we couldn't do it even if we wanted. But we certainly don't want to do it. But for providers, I think there are some really important things out there. If you're a provider, if you run a hospital or a community service or whatever, and your business model is based on delivering national targets and increasing the amount of activity that you do, you will fail in this new system. We're going to be paying for outcomes. We're not going to be paying for activity. We're going to be paying for outcomes. That significantly changes, I think, the relationship between commissioning and provision. And every provider organisation needs to think very carefully about its business model in order to get itself ready for an outcome-based system where rewards and resources follow the improvement of outcomes. The second thing providers need to think about, I think very carefully, is the way in which you organise yourselves, the way you organise your hospitals or your community services or whatever. What we're going to have in the future is a group of clinically informed and clinical commissioners who can sit down with your clinicians in secondary care and decide how they want to make the change happen. And not only talk about it and decide it, but actually implement it and have the ability to use the resource to make it happen. If you haven't got the equivalent in your secondary care provider, if your clinicians are not empowered to be able to do those discussions, to make the decisions, i.e. have the equivalent power in the system that consortia have, your organisations will not be as successful as they could be. So you need to think as providers very carefully about how you're going to restructure and reorganise yourselves in order to deliver that kind of change. And the third thing is, if you're a provider who essentially organises the walls around your own system, who lives within the walls of your own organisation, you won't be successful. Success in the future will be about how you can transcend those walls, how you can follow patient pathways, how you can work in different environments, in different circumstances to make the world different. That is, I think, the way in which success would be defined by providers. So not only is this a radical approach for commissioners, it's also, in my view, even more radical for providers in terms of taking the changes forward. So why would all of this make innovation more likely in the future than in the past? Well, I think there are some reasons why I think it will do. The first one is the development of the consortia. One thing I think that I particularly found working with the Pathfinders, now there are now 170 across the country, some whole regions now are completely covered by Pathfinders, is the enormous amount of energy that's being put into making things better. It's a hugely empowering thing for Pathfinders to start to make the decisions about the future of healthcare. They have huge enthusiasm to how they want to make the service go forward and the changes they want to make. And general practice generally, a huge kind of positive thing for the NHS as a whole. Very innovative in the way that it operates. It's remarkable sometimes how quickly general practice can pick something up and spread it across its whole system. A hugely dynamic, I think, primary care system in this country, which opens things up in a way I don't think that many of the managerial organisations we had in the past has been able to do. Already you can see the Pathfinders working together, sharing ideas, organising themselves in ways that people genuinely would not have thought of beforehand, and picking up ideas from one part of the country to another. One of the great things I think about the Pathfinder events that we've had is how quickly the response has been essentially a Pathfinder stands up on a stage, he says or she says what the great things that they're doing. Sometimes in our culture, sometimes in culture of other organisations, the response of the audience has been, yeah, but I don't believe it, or yeah, but it won't work, but yeah, but it's because they've got more money or whatever. The response has not been like that from the Pathfinders. A genuine hunger for information and knowledge and understanding, which is a really powerful, I think, engine for change in the service as we go forward, if we can harness and develop it. The second reason I think that we're more likely to get innovation in the system in the future is the existence of a national body, the National Commissioning Board, a body which is responsible for the first time for the totality of the National Health Service in a way we haven't had before. One corporate, single organisation which will be capable of shifting good ideas around the system in a way we could have only dreamt of in the past, as well as spreading good practice, but also making sure that what really good care looks like is in the hands of everybody. So every general practice consortia, every clinician in secondary care, every patient has access to the information that can show what really good stroke care, dementia care, or whatever kind of other care you want to really looks like. A really, I think, significant and important thing.